There comes a moment where your reflection no longer feels like home. The habits, the patterns, the thoughts, they echo with a version of you that's expired. And yet, the future version, the quantum version, already exists, fully formed, waiting in the field. You don't need to force your way into becoming it. You only need to let go of the version that's no longer in resonance. This isn't destruction, it's evolution. And the tension you feel right now, it's not confusion, it's alignment calling. The quiet knowing that you've outgrown yourself. There comes a moment, not loud, not dramatic, where something inside you whispers, "This isn't me anymore." The clothes still fit, the routine still runs, but internally, there's a quiet discomfort. You can't explain it fully, but everything once familiar now feels slightly off. Conversations feel emptier. Goals that used to excite you now leave you numb. It's not burnout, it's not confusion, it's a subtle awakening. You've outgrown who you used to be, but you haven't yet stepped into who you're becoming. And that space in between, it's sacred. It's where your soul is shedding layers you no longer need. You might feel disoriented, like you're floating between timelines, but that floating is part of the alignment. You're not lost. You're just expanding faster than your environment has caught up. This isn't about chasing more. It's about becoming more you, the real you, the one beneath the patterns, beneath the people-pleasing, beneath the identity you built to be accepted. When you've outgrown your past self, nothing external needs to break. The shift begins from within, from the moment you realize you can't pretend anymore. You may feel pulled to change things, your space, your schedule, your habits, but not out of force, out of resonance. It's not a breakdown, it's a recalibration. Your energy is no longer matching the life you used to tolerate. And now, it aches for something deeper, something more aligned, something real. This quiet knowing doesn't always come with a clear map. You won't get a checklist from the universe. What you get instead is sensation, friction, resistance to things that used to feel comfortable. And that resistance, that's not a problem to fix. That's data. That's your inner compass reorienting you toward your next version. The hardest part is explaining it to others, because you still look the same on the outside. But inside, a transformation is unfolding. And trying to explain your shift to someone still invested in the old version of you can feel like speaking a different language. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to understand your becoming. Trust what you feel, even if you can't yet see where it's going. The discomfort is not a mistake. It's a message. A soul-level signal that the container you've been living in has gotten too small. You were never meant to stay in one energetic size forever. Growth is supposed to stretch you. There's power in recognizing this early. Because when you name the feeling, this quiet knowing, you take back your authorship. You stop waiting for circumstances to give you permission. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable, and you begin walking toward the life that matches your current frequency. It's not about abandoning your past self. It's about thanking them for getting you here. You needed that version of you. They did the best they could with what they knew. But now you know more. You've felt more. And your body, your heart, your intuition, they're all pointing in a new direction. Honor the small ways your soul is trying to grow. Maybe it's waking up earlier. Maybe it's eating differently. Maybe it's finally setting boundaries. These aren't random habits. These are vibrational cues. Signals that you are no longer willing to live beneath your potential. This shift doesn't require a dramatic exit. Sometimes it's the subtle decision to no longer explain yourself, to no longer tolerate half-hearted connections, to stop apologizing for wanting more depth, more truth, more alignment. This is the inner work most people avoid, because it doesn't look impressive, but it changes everything. You might feel lonely during this phase. Not because you're alone, but because your energy no longer fits where you once belonged. Let that be okay. Let the quiet be your training ground. It's in the silence that you hear your next frequency most clearly. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Every cell in your body is listening to the signal of your soul. And when the signal says, "We've outgrown this," your nervous system starts to prepare for the leap. Even if you don't know what's next, begin to trust that forward is safer than staying stuck. Even if it's unfamiliar, it's still yours. You're not here to stay small. You're here to evolve, to express, to expand, to embody the next timeline that's already waiting for you. You don't need to wait for external permission. The knowing inside you is enough. It's clear, it's present, and it's ready. This quiet knowing isn't asking for your fear, it's asking for your faith. The future version of you already exists, and they're cheering for you, waiting for you, ready to welcome you, once you let go of the identity that no longer feels like home. Why letting go feels like losing control? Letting go sounds like a peaceful act, something soft, spiritual, even graceful. But when you're actually inside the process, it feels like chaos. You've been taught that control equals safety, that as long as you're holding the reins, life can't fall apart. So when your hands start to loosen, your nervous system panics. It's not that letting go is wrong, it's that your mind equates surrender with danger. The fear comes from the part of you that survived through structure, through strategy, through constantly analyzing, fixing, and preparing. Control became your safety blanket. And now, as you try to release it, every part of your being screams, "This isn't safe." That's not a sign you're doing it wrong. It's a sign you're detaching from a frequency you once depended on to survive. Letting go feels like losing control because it asks you to trust something bigger than your logic. It asks you to loosen your grip on outcomes, timelines, even identities you've spent years crafting. And when those begin to fall away, your ego panics. Not because you're in danger, but because you're stepping outside the known. And the unknown, no matter how aligned, always feels threatening to the part of you still wired for protection. Most of us confuse control with power. But real power doesn't need to grip. Real power flows. It listens. It allows. But when you've built a life around effort and force, surrender can feel like laziness, like giving up. That's the illusion. Letting go isn't quitting. It's alignment. It's choosing coherence over chaos. And the more you resist, the louder the friction becomes inside your body. We try to micromanage life because we're scared of what will happen if we don't. But what if the opposite is true? What if holding on so tightly is the very thing that's blocking the next version of your life? What if your obsession with control is creating resistance in the quantum field, keeping you looped in the same results, same patterns, same stuckness? Letting go feels like falling because your mind is still looking for a landing. But this part of your journey doesn't have a landing, it has a leap. And in the leap, there are no guarantees. There's just energy, intention, and trust. This is where you train your frequency to lead instead of your fear. This is where you stop negotiating with your old self for permission. Control is based on past evidence. It's the mind replaying old outcomes, trying to protect you from pain. But letting go is an act of presence. It's choosing to meet life now, without dragging yesterday's stories into it. And that's why it feels so raw, because it's unfamiliar. Not because it's wrong, but because you've never operated this freely before. When you let go, emotions surface. Grief, fear, confusion. You're not just releasing situations, you're releasing identities. Versions of you that once worked so hard to keep everything intact. And as they dissolve, it might feel like something's dying. In a way, it is, but not your future, not your power. What's dying is the illusion that control was ever the source of your safety. The truth is, most of what we try to control wasn't ours to begin with. Other people's reactions, timelines, outcomes, validation. And as you begin to release these, something surprising happens. You feel lighter. Not instantly, not perfectly. But the tension that once lived in your chest starts to fade, and you realize peace isn't found in knowing what's next. It's found in trusting who you are now. Letting go doesn't mean letting life do whatever it wants. It means aligning with what's already true. It means choosing your energy over your ego. It means surrendering the struggle without abandoning your power. And the more you practice this, the more you realize control was never your superpower. Presence is. What you're really afraid of isn't losing control. It's losing the illusion that you were ever supposed to manage it all alone. But you're not. Life is co-creative. The field responds to frequency, not force. And when you release the need to control every detail, you open space for miracles to land, unexpected, unscripted, and completely aligned. So if you're in that space where letting go feels like losing everything, pause, breathe. You're not unraveling, you're remembering. The more you allow, the more aligned you become. And in that space, something powerful awakens. The version of you who no longer needs control to feel safe. Because they've become the safety. They've become the signal. And the quantum field always responds to that. The energetic weight of past identities. Every identity you've worn left a frequency behind. Not just in your memories, but in your nervous system, your habits, your energy field. The version of you that hustled for worth, the one who stayed silent to feel safe, the one who shrank to fit into others' comfort. Those versions didn't just disappear. They linger, like echoes, shaping your responses long after the moment has passed. We carry identities the way we carry tension, unconsciously, until one day the weight becomes too much. You start reacting to life, not from who you are, but from who you used to be. And that's the trap. You're trying to grow forward while dragging the energetic baggage of stories that no longer belong to you. It's not your potential that's blocked. It's your frequency that's entangled. The past versions of you weren't wrong. They were adaptive. They did what they had to do to survive. But survival strategies aren't built for expansion. And if you're still using the identity of the struggler, the pleaser, or the skeptic to navigate your now, then you're emitting a signal that keeps the quantum field looping the same results back to you. Energetically, every identity holds a set point, a baseline vibration that tells the field, "This is who I am." It informs your choices, your posture, your tone, your expectations. Even if you say you want abundance or peace or purpose, if your identity is still anchored in the frequency of unworthiness, the field will match that, not your desires, but your default. The shift doesn't begin with new goals. It begins with an audit of who you believe you are. Are you still seeing yourself as the one who has to prove, the one who's always behind, the one who gets close but never quite gets there? These aren't just thoughts, they are energetic instructions, and your current reality is responding to them. This is why transformation feels so heavy. It's not just about change, it's about release. You're not only building the next version of yourself, you're grieving the old ones, and grief isn't logical, it's energetic. You may feel sadness for no clear reason, resistance where there should be excitement. That's not weakness, that's your field recalibrating. Every time you act from your higher self, the old self feels threatened. It senses its own extinction, and it will try to pull you back with familiar thoughts, emotions, and stories. This is too much. You're not ready. Who do you think you are? Recognize those not as truth, but as echoes. Proof that you're dissolving what no longer belongs. It's important to remember, you don't evolve by erasing the past, you evolve by alchemizing it. You take the lessons, the wisdom, the depth, and you release the fear, the scarcity, the doubt. This is not a mental exercise, it's vibrational refinement, and the more honest you are with the energy you're still carrying, the faster you collapse into the version of you that no longer does. You may still be living in environments that reflect the old identity, around people who reinforce it, in routines that sustain it. And yet, something inside you knows. That's not who you are anymore. The friction you feel isn't failure, it's feedback. You're outgrowing a vibration that no longer fits your soul's trajectory. This process isn't linear. Some days you'll feel clear, elevated, untouchable. Other days you'll feel pulled back into the gravity of who you used to be. That's okay. It's not about perfection, it's about pattern interruption. Every time you choose alignment over autopilot, you reclaim your frequency, you move energy, you collapse timelines. Here's the secret most people miss. Your identity isn't fixed, it's fluid. It updates with every choice, every belief, every emotion you refuse to recycle. And the more intentional you become about your signal, the more reality begins to bend around your new energetic signature. You don't force that, you become it. So if you feel heavy, not because of what's happening, but because of what's still inside you, take it as a sacred signal. You're not broken, you're breaking free. The weight isn't punishment, it's residue. And the moment you decide to honor who you've been without becoming it again, your field begins to shift. The real you, the unburdened, aligned, radiant you, is already vibrating beneath the layers, waiting to be felt again. Solitude. the space where the real work begins. There's a moment after the breakdown, after the realization, after the awakening, where everything becomes still. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, it's not even clear, but something deep within you knows. This is where the real work begins. Not the external hustle, not the forced productivity, but the inner recalibration that changes everything. This space is sacred. It's the in-between, the pause between who you were and who you're becoming. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It arrives silently, disguised as stillness, as discomfort, as uncertainty. And yet, within it is the blueprint of the life you've always wanted, not because it's easy, but because it's real. Most people try to skip this space. They want instant change, quick results, tangible shifts. But energy doesn't respond to speed. It responds to depth. And this is the space that demands your depth, your presence, your honesty. Because nothing sustainable can be built on the frequency of avoidance. The real work isn't about fixing the outside. It's about observing the inside. It's about noticing how you respond when nothing seems to be happening. Do you reach for distraction? Do you chase validation? Or do you finally sit with yourself and listen to what your soul has been whispering for years? This space asks you to feel what you've been numbing, to face the emotions you buried under busyness, to become intimate with your patterns, not to judge them, but to understand them. Because your patterns are the programs, and the programs are the frequency. And if you want a new outcome, the signal must shift first. You may feel like you're doing nothing in this space, but energetically, it's everything. The silence is where the field starts to rearrange. The surrender is where the resistance melts. The honesty is where the healing begins. And none of that can happen while you're pretending you're fine or rushing past your growth. In this space, your shadows rise, not to punish you, but to be seen, to be loved, to be reintegrated. This is the space where you stop blaming the world and start decoding the mirror, where you realize that what's showing up outside is just the echo of what you've been broadcasting within. Real transformation isn't glamorous, it's gritty, it's vulnerable. It's the moment you choose to stop performing strength and actually cultivate it. It's the decision to no longer bypass your truth just to be accepted. The real work begins when you're finally tired of your own cycles and brave enough to break them. It's easy to set intentions. It's harder to embody them when no one's watching. This space teaches you how. It strips away the illusion. It reveals the places where your desires and your habits are out of sync, and it gives you the chance to close that gap, not through willpower, but through alignment. The field doesn't care about your goals. It responds to your energy, and your energy is clearest in the silence, when there's no performance, no audience, just you, your patterns, and the choice to either repeat them or rewrite them. This is where frequency becomes integrity. You might feel lost in this space. That's okay. Lost is just what it feels like when you're no longer willing to follow the old map. You're not broken. You're breaking out of the old identity. And that's what makes this space so powerful. It's the womb of your rebirth, not the end, but the beginning. You may crave certainty, but this space offers none, because it doesn't operate in logic. It operates in energy, and energy responds to presence. So instead of demanding answers, bring attention. Instead of seeking clarity, offer coherence. That's when the shifts start, not from control, but from surrender. This space is where you meet the parts of yourself you've avoided. The guilt, the doubt, the fear. And instead of pushing them away, you invite them in. You listen, you hold space, you allow. Because these emotions aren't the enemy. They are the keys to your next level when you face them with compassion. The real work begins when you stop negotiating with your old self, when you stop giving it the mic, when you stop making excuses for staying the same. This doesn't require punishment. It requires truth. Radical, non-judgmental truth. And in that truth, there is freedom. Because you finally stop pretending. In this space, your rituals matter, not for the aesthetic, but for the alignment. Every breath becomes sacred. Every choice becomes a declaration. You're not moving fast, but you're moving honestly. And honesty vibrates higher than speed. It tells the field, I'm ready, even if I'm afraid. This isn't about spiritual bypassing. This is about energetic maturity, about showing up fully to the parts of the journey that don't make it to Instagram, the breakdowns, the silence, the shadow work. This is the work that reprograms your field, not with force, but with consistency. The more you sit in this space, the more you start to hear the future calling, not with words, but with resonance, a subtle pull, a frequency that feels like home. That's your alignment waking up. That's your next timeline whispering, keep going. You're closer than it seems. And yes, this space will test your patience. Your ego will scream for action, for noise, for proof. But the field isn't watching what you say. It's feeling what you are. And if you can hold your frequency when nothing is happening, that's when everything starts happening behind the scenes. This space won't reward the loudest part of you. It rewards the most aligned. So breathe, be, listen, recalibrate. Your job isn't to escape this space. It's to master it. Because the longer you stay here with integrity, the faster you collapse into the version of yourself that's already on the other side. This is not the pause before the work. This is the work. This is the furnace where clarity is forged, where old identities burn and new ones are born, where the quantum field tunes in, not to what you hope for, but to what you've become. And when you rise from this space, you don't just move forward. You broadcast a new signal that reality can no longer ignore. The pain of rebuilding is proof. You're shifting. When the life you once knew starts to fall apart, it can feel like you're losing everything. But this unraveling isn't chaos, it's clarity. The walls that once held you in place are now crumbling, not to punish you, but to free you. What used to feel like comfort now feels like confinement, and that discomfort is a signal. It means your soul is outgrowing its shell. It means the old version of you can't hold the weight of who you're becoming. There's a quiet ache that comes when your habits no longer match your vision. The same routine, the same thoughts, the same emotions. Suddenly they feel foreign. You're not failing, you're recalibrating. And the pain you feel is not regression, it's realignment. It's proof that your frequency is shifting, even if your external world hasn't caught up yet. This is how evolution feels on the inside. Letting go of the old self is not a single decision. It's a daily practice. You shed it layer by layer, moment by moment, sometimes with courage, sometimes with grief. The identity that once protected you is now what's limiting you. And peeling it away can feel like losing a part of yourself. But in truth, you're not losing, you're making room. The rebuilding begins in silence, not in public victories, but in private commitments. When you choose to think a new thought, when you say no to what drains you, when you speak to yourself with tenderness instead of criticism. These small acts of alignment are bricks in your new foundation, and though invisible to others, they are the most powerful moves you'll ever make. There's a fatigue that comes not from physical effort, but from emotional rewiring. You're training your nervous system to feel safe in a new identity, one that doesn't chase, one that doesn't shrink, one that doesn't settle. That's exhausting, but it's also sacred, because that exhaustion means you're finally meeting yourself with honesty. People may not understand what you're going through. They'll say you've changed like it's a bad thing, but change is inevitable when growth is your priority. The path to authenticity is lonely at first, because you're no longer matching the frequencies of your past. You're becoming magnetic to a new reality, and that requires distance from the old one. There are days you'll feel like quitting, not because you're weak, but because transformation is heavy. It asks you to sacrifice familiarity for freedom, and that trade is never easy. But every time you choose integrity over ease, you're telling the universe, I'm serious about my next level. That declaration reshapes your entire field. Rebuilding isn't glamorous. It's waking up and choosing alignment when nothing outside has changed. It's believing in the unseen, showing up for the self that hasn't yet fully formed. It's uncomfortable, uncertain, and deeply humbling. But it's also where your power is forged, day by day, breath by breath. The old world will try to pull you back through triggers, temptations, or memories that whisper comfort. But comfort is not your goal, coherence is. You are here to become energetically whole, not externally approved. And every time you say no to the past, you're saying yes to the truth of who you are now. There's grief in letting go of who you used to be, because even the limited version of you was familiar. It had memories, stories, attachments. But grieving doesn't mean going backward. It means honoring what was while courageously walking into what will be. It's a sacred process, and it deserves your patience. Sometimes the pain of rebuilding isn't what you lost, but the emptiness before the new has fully arrived. That in-between space where your old life no longer fits and your new life hasn't taken shape. But that space is not a void, it's a womb. And something powerful is forming in the silence. You will doubt yourself. You will wonder if the leap was worth it. And in those moments, your job is not to have all the answers. Your job is to stay. Stay in the stretch. Stay in the discomfort. Stay in the belief that something beautiful is birthing, even if you can't see it yet. The pain you feel is data. It's your body adjusting to a new signal. Your frequency is shifting, and your nervous system is recalibrating. This is not suffering without purpose. It's spiritual growing pains. And if you can breathe through them, you'll emerge with a strength that cannot be faked. Don't measure your progress by what others can see. The real transformation is invisible. It's in your thoughts, your choices, your energy. The world will catch up later. For now, trust the shift. Trust that every uncomfortable moment is moving you closer to coherence. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from wisdom. Everything you've been through gave you the tools for this rebuild. The tears, the trials, the awakenings, they all shaped your foundation. And now you're constructing a version of you that can hold your dream life with ease. Rebuilding is choosing truth over triggers. It's pausing before reacting. It's responding with presence instead of patterns. That level of control is power. And that power is what separates the old you from the quantum you. You're not the same, and that's the point. There will be days where your only victory is not giving up. That's enough. Rest doesn't mean retreat. It means you're allowing your energy to recalibrate. Even stillness has a frequency, and when you learn to sit in it without panic, you've already won. You may feel slow, unsure, unproductive, but alignment isn't about speed, it's about depth. And right now, you are rooting into a version of yourself that no longer bends for survival. That is massive. That is revolution in motion. Your old identity was reactive. Your new one is intentional. It chooses its responses, its energy, its focus. That shift may go unnoticed by others, but it changes everything. Because what you consistently choose is what you ultimately become. The pain of rebuilding also sharpens your discernment. You start to see who drains you, what habits keep you small, what thoughts sabotage your future, and the more you notice, the more you choose better. That noticing is the gift. You don't need proof that it's working. You are the proof. Your inner world is reconfiguring, your vibration is changing, and the outer will follow, because the field always mirrors the being, not the doing. So if you're hurting, aching, stretching, don't run, lean in. That pain is your initiation. That fire is forging your next level. And one day soon, you'll look back and realize the pain wasn't punishment. It was prophecy. You're not breaking down, you're breaking through. There are moments where everything feels like it's falling apart. The routines that once held you crumble. The thoughts that once guided you now confuse. It feels like life is unrecognizable, like you're unraveling. But what if this isn't the end? What if this is the opening? The moment where your old structure finally collapses so your soul can rise without restriction. Breaking down is often misunderstood. It's not weakness, it's not failure. It's your inner self screaming for release from the false layers. The tears, the silence, the disorientation. These are not signs you're broken. They're signs you're expanding beyond the identity you've outgrown. The version of you that could survive isn't the version that can thrive. And that's why this hurts. In the quantum field, no transformation happens without a disruption. The system must reorganize, the energy must shift, and that shift is rarely calm. Think of it like an upgrade. The old software crashes before the new can install. You're not falling behind, you're being updated, not for comfort, but for coherence. The life you built may have served a purpose, But now your soul is demanding more. Not more stuff, not more status, more truth. And truth often begins with destruction, the dismantling of who you pretended to be. The breakdown is simply the part where the false self loses its grip. People talk about breakthroughs like they're euphoric, but real breakthroughs are raw. They rip you open. They expose your fear, your doubt, your buried dreams. They leave you breathless and unguarded. But in that exposure, light enters. You don't become whole by bypassing the pain. You become whole by walking through it. This breakdown is sacred. It's the cracking open of your resistance, the moment your control surrenders to the truth of your becoming. You may feel like everything is being taken from you, but in truth, you're being returned to yourself, the self that existed before the world told you who to be. You're not unraveling, you're being unmasked. The pain is not your enemy. It's the invitation, the doorway, the portal to the version of you who no longer needs to perform, to please, or to pretend. And though it feels like chaos, it's actually coherence being born through contrast. Let yourself cry, let yourself question, let yourself scream if you need to. The breakdown honors your humanity. It proves that you're no longer numb, you're no longer avoiding, you're feeling. And feeling is the language of transformation. This is not the time to hide. This is the time to get honest, to ask the deeper questions. What am I still holding on to that no longer fits? What am I resisting that wants to emerge? What would happen if I let the old fall away without trying to save it? The breakdown strips away your distractions. It makes it impossible to fake alignment. Your body, your mind, your energy, everything screams for change. And that scream is sacred. It means you're awake. It means you're finally listening to what you've silenced for too long. You might not recognize yourself right now. That's okay. You're in the middle, the bridge, the liminal space between who you were and who you're becoming. That discomfort, that's the edge of evolution. The friction between old frequency and new identity. You're not stuck, you're shedding. You're not regressing, you're recalibrating. The pain doesn't mean you're off course. It means the old path can't hold your next level. And that's a breakthrough, not a breakdown. No one tells you that healing can look like chaos, that elevation can feel like emptiness, that clarity often arrives through confusion. But if you're feeling it, you're not alone. Every great shift begins with the moment nothing makes sense, until everything suddenly does. In the quantum realm, the observer creates reality, and right now, the way you observe your breakdown matters. If you see it as failure, you collapse into fear. If you see it as a breakthrough, you rise into faith. You decide the meaning, and that meaning shapes your frequency. This isn't about being positive. It's about being present, fully present in your pain, fully aware of your power. Because the moment you stop resisting what is, you open the door to what could be. The field doesn't respond to force, it responds to truth. Every breakdown contains information. It shows you what was never real, what never fit, what you only tolerated because you thought you had to. And when those illusions fall apart, yes, it hurts. But what remains is real, and you can build from real. You don't need to have it all figured out, you just need to trust that this moment is part of the becoming, that your body knows how to break and heal, that your energy knows how to collapse and rise, and that your soul knows how to find the way forward. Look at what's falling apart. Now ask, what was I building on top of that? Was it aligned? Was it true? Sometimes life removes the things that block our breakthroughs, not to punish us, but to prepare us. You're not losing, you're being liberated. You're not here to rebuild the same life with a new mindset. You're here to rebuild a new life from a higher identity. That's why the old ways feel impossible now. They were only meant to carry you this far. The next level requires something deeper, something more real. You may feel fragile, but you are fierce. You may feel confused, but you are closer than ever. Because when everything else fades, what remains is your essence. And that essence cannot be broken. It can only be revealed. The breakthrough will not arrive like lightning. It will arrive like a sunrise, quiet, steady, certain. And you'll look back one day and realize that the breakdown was the best thing that ever happened, because it forced you to remember who you really are. So let it fall, let it break, let the old world collapse, not because you're weak, but because you're ready. And every tear, every tremble, Every cracked belief is making space for the you that already exists on the other side of this pain. Your new identity is already waiting in the field. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you've always been. In the quantum field, every version of you already exists, including the one you're trying so hard to become. It's not a matter of creation, but alignment. The moment you tune into that frequency, everything begins to shift. The problem is, we keep looking for change outside of us. We chase results, chase validation, chase milestones. But the field doesn't respond to force. It responds to frequency. The identity you want to step into, confident, focused, fulfilled, isn't far away. It's already vibrating in the field, waiting for you to meet it with your choices. Most people don't realize that identity isn't just mindset. It's an energetic signature. It's the way you move, speak, think, and feel. And when you continue broadcasting the same energy from your past, worry, doubt, fear, you keep collapsing the same version of yourself again and again. Your new identity is subtle at first. It whispers, it nudges. It feels unfamiliar because it's unfamiliar to your nervous system, not your soul. Your soul already knows this next version. It's been guiding you there through resistance, discomfort, and longing. All you have to do now is listen and respond. You don't need more information. You need more embodiment. Begin acting like the version of you that already has what you desire. What do they tolerate? How do they start their day? What do they walk away from without guilt? Your power lies in the micro movements, not the dramatic leaps. In quantum terms, the moment you observe yourself differently, you collapse into a different possibility. That's why identity work is energetic. When you begin to feel like your next self, not just pretend, but feel it in your body, the field starts to rearrange in response. Your environment will test you. Old patterns will echo. Familiar habits will try to pull you back. That's not failure. That's feedback. It's a reflection of the old frequency trying to survive. But you're not here to survive anymore. You're here to remember and embody the identity of someone who thrives. Let go of needing proof. Your next identity doesn't come with external validation first. It comes through energetic alignment. You choose it before you feel ready. You walk like it, speak like it, and breathe like it. And then reality catches up. Most people wait to feel confident before they act confident. They wait to feel successful before they move like success. But the quantum field doesn't work that way. It mirrors your being, not your hoping. You don't wait for it to arrive. You become the arrival point. If it feels uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Discomfort means your body is shedding old coding. It's not sabotage. It's sacred. The nervous system is being rewired for expansion, and that will always feel like risk before it feels like power. You've already caught glimpses of this version in moments of flow, of clarity, of joy. That was you aligning with your true identity. Those weren't accidents. They were previews. The field was showing you what's possible when you stop rehearsing your limits. Your job now is to stop rehearsing the old identity. Stop repeating the same emotional loops. Stop validating the story that says you're not there yet. Instead, become the version who doesn't need to chase anymore because they already embody the life they desire. The new identity isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply vibrates differently. It enters rooms with calm certainty. It knows the universe is a mirror, not a judge, and it only reflects what you're bold enough to believe about yourself. Every thought is a vote. Every feeling is a transmission. Every choice is a declaration. You are either aligning with your past or broadcasting your future. There is no in-between. You're not stuck. You're just deciding who you want to be, moment by moment. The new identity doesn't need permission. It doesn't need everyone to understand. It only needs one thing: coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions speak the same truth, the field responds instantly. That's how timelines shift. You don't need to see the full picture. You just need to hold the frequency. Trust that the path will unfold from that vibration, not because you're forcing it, but because you've become a match for it. The universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. Yes, there will be doubt, there will be fear, But they are echoes, not anchors. Don't negotiate with them. Don't fight them. Just keep choosing the new signal. Keep becoming the observer who knows that every shift begins inside. This isn't a game of willpower, it's a game of awareness. Start noticing where your identity defaults back into scarcity, insecurity, or smallness. And interrupt it. Not with shame, but with a new choice. A choice that honors who you're becoming. Change is subtle. It won't always feel groundbreaking. Sometimes it looks like drinking your coffee slower, breathing deeper, saying no faster. These tiny signals stack, and over time, they collapse a new reality around your new self. Let this be your reminder. You're not becoming worthy. You already are. You're not earning alignment. You're aligning with what's already been true. Your new identity doesn't need to be built. It needs to be remembered, rehearsed, and released into the world. And when you do that, when you stop waiting and start embodying, the field will not hesitate. It will recognize your signal. It will respond with precision. And suddenly, the life that once felt far will feel familiar, because it was always yours. The old version of you was built for survival. The new one is calibrated for expansion. You don't have to earn your future, only remember it. Letting go isn't weakness, it's frequency alignment. And every time you choose coherence over control, every time you honor the stillness instead of the struggle, you collapse timelines. This version of you, the one you keep sensing, seeing, almost touching, it's not far, it's you, minus the past frequency. So walk forward now, not hoping, but knowing. The quantum version of you is not a fantasy, it's a frequency, and you're already vibrating into it. If this message stirred something real, comment below, I'm letting go, I'm aligning. Because the field responds not to wanting, but to readiness. And right now, you are ready.